What is going on, Brooklyn Net fans? Hello, everyone, and welcome back here into another edition of the Brooklyn Boys Show. I am your host, Connor Long, and joining me today here on the show, a man who needs no introduction in Nets world, but we'll give him one anyways. He's called over 2,000 consecutive Nets games. You know him from the radio. You saw him and heard him consistently this season on TV. Yes, network as well. It is the one, the only Tim Capstraw, kind enough to give us some of his time right here on the show. Capper, first time guest. I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm in my car right now, so I got to concentrate a little bit. I'm sorry I couldn't be on camera at home, but my daughter had to get back to school, so I'm coming. I'm riding right now. So whatever you need, man, I'm fired up to talk to you. You sound so awesome.
Let's go. I appreciate.
Let's go. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And yeah, no video, but it's fine. We're still rocking and rolling. We got you loud and clear. And one team that isn't rocking and rolling right now in the NBA postseason, the Brooklyn Nets. And Tim, before we talk about the Nets and the MPJ extension talks that I want to get to, some of your thoughts on the draft, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you just your thoughts on the way the NBA playoffs have been playing out in the West, obviously, with the Spurs looking like the favorite over there right now to come out their battle with OKC. And then on the East, the Knicks already have their spot locked up for the Eastern Conference Finals. And that battle that will continue tonight, as of this recording at least, we're sitting here right on Wednesday, May 13th, between the Cleveland Cavaliers and Detroit Pistons. So just your thoughts on the way the playoffs have played out thus far and any predictions you have moving forward.
Yeah, well, during the year, I was saying that I thought this had the makings of being one of the great playoffs in recent memory because I just thought there was a real balance up and down, in the two conferences. I thought, obviously, I think the West was considered the superior conference, but I thought that the games, like even the first round games, I mean, think about how many games or how many of these, the series where two losses or two wins. Everybody had there was no sweeps going on. It was the first round was even good. Now you get here to the second round. I'm certainly with all the New York fans. The Knicks were unbelievable. They're just doing a fantastic job. Tonight we're going home. I'm not sure when this is. I'll be going home watching the Pistons and Cavaliers, and then out, which is a great series. And then I'm going out, and then you go out west, and you look at San Antonio and how they're playing that Minnesota series. The San Antonio, say San Antonio wins it, and they're probably looking like they're going to, but you never know. San Antonio OKC in the next round, it's got a chance to be one of the best series that there has been in the NBA playoffs in years. And if you're thinking about that, and if you think about the Knicks, say the Knicks play Pistons or how great is that going to be? Like this the final four is going to be unbelievable. I am so fired up. I spend every night just up all night. I have to watch, and I'm interested in what all the broadcasters say. I'm always studying to try to get better and all those kind of things. And I've just totally enjoyed every single game, and it's been fantastic so far. Really enjoyed it.
Certainly, and I think specifically with the Knicks and the East quickly before we get into some Nets talk here on the show, Tim, I think Knicks fans should be hoping that the Cavs are able to pull out and win that series, which I think is a very real possibility. When you talk about the Detroit Pistons, this is a team, the big guard in Cade Cunningham who could score at will, and then Jalen Duren at center. I think the Knicks all season long, starting early in the regular season, persisting up through now, really, they've struggled against those big-bodied guards like Cade Cunningham. Even, guys to a lesser extent like Keyshawn George with the Wizards. The Knicks were consistently beating the Wizards in the regular season, but you saw a guy like George consistently giving that defense and that group trouble time in and time out. I think if you're a Knicks fan, Cap, you got to be hoping that Cleveland's able to pull out. And that's not to say that there's some cakewalk of a team and the Knicks are able to win that series in 4 and punch their ticket to the NBA Finals. The Cavs are still a really good team. But I think with the Pistons, that's a less favorable matchup for the Knicks, largely because of the threat that Cade Cunningham poses.
Well, I thought that that's what the regular season certainly, that's what you witnessed in the regular season. I just feel the Knicks are different now. I'm like everybody else. I've witnessed them transform who they are in these playoffs, and they've done a wonderful job. This idea of Karl Anthony Towns being, utilized more on the perimeter, the idea of moving Brunson around, trusting different players. And it's really carried over to the defensive side of the floor where they're really buying in. I think there's a healthy attitude with this net team. But you are right. If they were going to struggle, I do think the big guard getting where he wants to get to could be a factor. But, if they play good basketball, they got every right to believe they can be in the finals. That's for sure. But again, it's going to be fascinating. The matchups, the game-to-game strategy of playoffs is so enjoyable for me to watch them experiment or try to do, one area of, say, a defensive adjustment or the matchups. Maybe, where do you hide Brunson if you play the Pistons and you want to put maybe Josh Hart on Cade Cunningham and different things like that. I find all that kind of stuff just so enjoyable. And see if it didn't work, what are they going to do the next game? And it's the chess match nightly and each game to game in the playoffs is very, very enjoyable to me.
Certainly well said there. And Capper, kind of want to transition our focus over to the Nets and what they've got going on. They may not be in the playoffs, but it was a busy weekend, the NBA draft lottery. Not very exciting for myself or any other Net fan out there. I'm sure you all saw the tweet, everyone watching, about how close the Nets were in the ping pong ball race to getting that top selection. And nope, they didn't get the top pick. They didn't even get in the top 3 or 4 or 5. They slide all the way down, the second worst possible scenario, to the 6th overall pick. And you know this better than anyone, Capper, calling, every game these past 2 seasons. This is a Nets team that has been dedicated to the tank for 2 years now. They've lost over 100 games combined these past 2 seasons. They don't have a top 5 pick to show for it, though. Picking 8th last year and 6th this year. Just your initial thoughts on the lottery, what went down there, and how the Nets are maybe still able to not find that franchise-changing player that they could have gotten in AJ DeBonsta type at number 1, but still a guy similar to Yegor Dioman at 8 last year who's going to come in and contribute right away and has the ability to be a top option on this team.
Yeah, well, I was like every other fan, right? I mean, I was like initially – can you get the number 1 pick? And then you end up getting, and then they flip the card over and you're the 6th pick. I was bummed like everybody. That's the natural response. But as I look back at the history of the NBA, yes, some number 1 picks and number 2 picks, it can make a difference, but it doesn't always. And this is just such a unique draft that there's such depth in this draft that you don't know where the star players are. Do they look like it's DeBonza and it doesn't look like Peterson and Boozer? Yeah, I know it looks that way, but you don't know which one of these guards is going to be a superstar. There could be there's potential this year at the guard within these guards. There's such depth in this draft that if you might be able to, not even might, you're going to get a very good player at 6, but you never know. You might get a star. You might get a star who's better than some of the guys that are picked 2, 3, or 4. You just never know. This is the type of year that it could happen. And I'm just curious, and just who the Nets would take, and I'm fascinated by it. I follow it close, but I don't watch the college all that much during the year. But I know all the names, and I know the depth at the guards. I also know that there's some bigger players out there. There'll be surprises, Con. There'll be surprises that shock you, right? I mean, think about the MVPs we've had. Jokic was a 2nd rounder, right? Giannis was 15 when he came out. Different guys. Steph Curry was 8th, 7th, or 8th, right, when he came out. Yeah, I mean, this is the type of year where those guys are going to be really good also. but I'm like everybody else. Yeah, you would think that you'd want to have the best possible options in the top four. But I do believe, and really not just believe. This is what I watch all the shows like all you guys do. That's what people believe right now. That there's other good players, and
Agreed.
and when our management, Sean Marks, has been up against it, like when he first took over the job, that's when he's done his best magic and his best work. So I think that I think we have an opportunity now to see him, really kind of work it, whether it be by the draft, by other, I don't know, trades or acquisitions of players. I think this is when that's what we remember him really blowing everybody away his first 3 years on the job. When you didn't think it was good, that's when he made it really good. And I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing going forward right now.
Cap, you said it earlier when we were talking about the Knicks, how well constructed that roster is. Well, if you look at the guys on that team, the main faces there, when they were drafted, I think Cat is the only guy who was picked number 1 overall. After that, you're just looking at a bunch of players who gel really well together. Brunson, who's that. I mean, not much more needs to be said. He's the commander-in-chief who blows up in the playoffs and can get you 25 a night in the regular season, 25, 30 points per game in the regular season, and even more in the playoffs. So I think when you just talk about overall roster construction, I think you made a great point talking about the MVPs there. It's not always the number one clear-cut guy. This not only applies in the NBA, but the NFL, all these major sports.
Yeah,
it's not always the top pick who pans out to be the best.
Exactly, and there's also the evaluation of other teams right now. Like, think about where the Nets would be if they didn't have great evaluation of Jalen Brunson over the window of time where they watched him play with the Dallas Mavericks when Doncic was out and the decision they made to get him, right? How about the evaluation of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when they were the Paul George trade was going on and they were saying, well, we want this draft pick, but we got to have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Did you know then that he was a future MVP? No, you have to.
Exactly.
That is a big part of roster construction.
Certainly.
Is finding players that might be miscast on other rosters. So the combination of drafting, free agency, yes, is part of it, but it's not like it used to be. And then just evaluating different players and then development and then watching to see, this Nets staff is really good at developing players. Let's see what kind of improvement you got on some of the rookies that they had last year, some of the younger players that the Nets have had. So there's a lot of different ways to continue to get better. And I am just, curious. It's not perfect. I was like everybody else. I wanted the number 1 pick. But now when you see, and it's going to be interesting. They took a number of guards last year. Will they go guard again? Will they, because really from 5, 6, 7, 8, it's kind of looks like a lot of guards right there. Will they go a guard right there? Will they go after, I don't know, different players, around that are listed a little bit higher? Think about OKC. For years, Sam Presti is considered the best guy evaluated. He was always taking players that were higher, like everybody anticipated going, like Westbrook, I think was anticipated going 12th. Well, I think he took him a lot earlier. Harden, nobody really knew that much about him, and he took him early. Like, it's evaluation of the talent of where it's not where they are, it's where they're going to be, and it's going to be really interesting to watch this evolve in the next, this next year, this next season. But I think there's going to be a lot of different things going on. I think the Nets, they're not going to benefit by not being a competitive team next year. So so I think that they're going to be going after it. So I'm curious to watch how it all can be molded, because I think I'd be surprised if there weren't a lot of different things going on this summer going into next season.
Absolutely, and obviously the draft is kind of what kicks off the summer in June, and then the free agent frenzy to follow that, and the trades and all that stuff. I think a situation, though, that will be closely monitored, Tim, throughout the entirety of the summer is that of Michael Porter Jr. He's under contract with the Nets this season. Cap hits just over $40 million. But after a year and his first with the Nets, where he was highly dominant, scoring at will, there were the questions of, without a Nikola Jokic, without a Jamal Murray alongside him, will he be able to keep up that same level of production he showed in Denver? And with Brooklyn, he was able to show that and then some. The question is, though, how much will the Nets commit to him? Are they willing to give him, an extension in the range of the 4-year, $250 million ballpark, which has been discussed and reported? Tim, as someone who watched MPJ for every game this season, analyzed every step he took with the ball, is he the type of player in your eyes that is worth a multi-year $40+ million extension?
Well, that's for people that are above my pay grade. I don't really know exactly where he falls. I do know one thing, that players like himself, lead singers, like a lead singer like Michael Porter Jr., they perform awfully well for Jordy Fernandez, right? I mean, think about Cam Johnson the year before, how well he came in. People didn't expect him to be a go-to guy, and what he was able to do under Jordy Fernandez. I thought Jordy did an amazing job of putting Michael Porter Jr. in really good spots, utilizing all the different skills he had. I didn't realize he could do all these different things, and he just did a great job. I also thought his leadership was good. I'm sure everything's like Sean Marks would say, everything's on the table. They have options. They have to figure out what is going to make the most sense. Do I know the number of what Michael Porter Jr. is there? Maybe they're discussing even, who knows, there's just so many different options with a player like that, or really with a roster like this, that you've got to be open to everything. And, Michael Porter Jr. certainly deserves to be regarded as a very, very good NBA player. He's borderline all-star this year. I would have liked to see him, but you could see by the Nets record, I understand that he didn't make it. But we saw when he was playing how elite he was. Sure. And it wasn't just shot making. A lot of it was shot making, difficult shots. I loved his chemistry started developing with like Claxton, and the passing and the movement, and excellent job off the ball, and reading the defense. And it wasn't just shot making. Then he'd have a size advantage. He'd go down low and be able to power it sometimes, and use his ability to be 6'10". Listen, he's a really, really good player. Where he lands on the financial thing, I wouldn't know that, but I do believe that he is a really, really really good talent.
Sure, and I entirely agree with everything you said there. For me, I think he's in that star range, a guy that I would be willing to give that lucrative extension to. As you mentioned, Tim, there, you saw what he was able to do this past season, and the multiple different ways where Jordy Fernandez and this coaching staff was able to utilize him and do things, as you said, you didn't know he could do. This is a guy who I think is a top option on a really, really good team in this league. He's also not too old. He's turning 28 in the end of June, right before the season starts. Again, you saw what he can do. The injury concerns, sure, he was sidelined down the stretch this season, but to be honest, I think if the Nets were competing for a playoff spot or trying to remain competitive and get into the postseason, I think they would have pushed him out there. I think part of the reason keeping him sidelined for the remainder of the year was partially due to the tank and trying to get the highest possible odds for that pick, again, which they did have, having a bottom 4 record in the league. But as we've discussed, the bounces just didn't go their way. As you said there, though, the possibilities are endless. You could extend him, you could lock him up, you could retain him to be this superstar type player for you, and pair him with another really good player in this league. Or, maybe the Nets want to acquire another first-round pick. They only have 1 pick in the first round this year. Maybe they move him and acquire a second lottery pick and make moves there. As you said, and what Marks would say, everything is on the table. The Nets are exploring all options with MPJ. And look, the good thing here with MPJ, with the Nets draft assets and their cap space, which is expected to rank among the most in the league. They have this unlimited amount of flexibility that allows them to read the board on draft night, make a decision, see the way the free agency class falls, place high bids on top players they like on the open market. Overall, Cap, the overarching theme for me that I continue to see with the Nets this offseason is that they have this abundance of flexibility, and I expect that they will utilize it.
Absolutely. Well said. Very well said. You are on top of it. Very good.
I appreciate it. I want to get your thoughts on the way the rookies, in your eyes, you thought they looked this past season. The five main first-round guys, Yegor Dioman, Nolan Traore, Drake Powell, Danny Wolf, Ben Sarif. The way I kind of analyzed them, I think Yegor's the only one who showed that sustainable success, who I think we could confidently say that we think he's able to be a damn good player in this league for years to come. Other than that, Traore had his moments towards the end of the season. Powell flashed that two-way upside at points. You saw why teams liked Wolf and what he was able to do with that athleticism and him being a smooth mover. And then Sarif even compiled a handful of nice games down the stretch as well alongside Traore. Cap, just your overall analysis on the way you thought the rookies looked in 2025.
Well, I think you're kind of nailing it right there. I thought there were windows. You saw windows of, I think Yegor had the longer, the best stretch, and the best thing about Yegor was obviously his deep shooting ability and his positional size. He has great size on the wing. He wasn't necessarily, he didn't show all, he's got to worry if he's going to play any kind of point in his career. He's got to get tighter, stronger. Everything's got to get, all these guys got to get stronger.
Exactly.
I think they showed glimpses. All of them showed glimpses. But the NBA is about consistency and improvement. And I'm just telling you, you heard Jordi Fernandez say this. This is the biggest summer of their lives. And these guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to judge them to next year. I want to see who's going to make the jump, because it's like doing anything. You think about the first podcast you did, right? Yeah, but then, now you're doing it for a while here. You're getting a little cocky. You're getting good at it, you know what I mean? Like,
I got you.
Same thing with me. Like, I didn't know what I was doing on radio and maybe on TV in the beginning, but then you get better at it. I need to see jumps from these guys. I think they're all capable, but are they going to get to the point where there's real improvement and consistent improvement? I think they all need to do that. And I think that's what you do when you're dealing with 19 and 20-year-old players. That's usually how it is. Now, does a Cooper Flag just jump out, or Con Knippel come and just jump out, or even VJ Edgecombe? Yes. But a lot of times for guys, you've got to give it a little bit more time. I want to jump. I want Traore to be better, stronger, more consistent.
Yes.
I want his jump shot to look. I want Saraf to really be able to shoot the basketball. I want him to have a good feel.
Exactly.
I want to see Danny Wolf in the greatest shape of his life, even though he's gotten a lot better in shape, and show some ability around the basket, even with everything he can do on the perimeter. And I want him to be a knockdown deep shooter. You see in the playoffs that is the great equalizer, shooting the basketball. That is the one thing that sets up everything else you can do on the floor for the majority of players in the NBA. So these guys, I think, and if you've ever seen, like I've witnessed the staff, this Nets staff, and how they work together and how they work. This is going to be a detailed, unbelievable operation this summer of improvement. And I'm fascinated to see where these guys are because they all got they got minutes to be okay, good at sometimes, and then bad a lot of times. They got minutes. And think about it. What do you need when you want to be good on a podcast? You want reps. They got reps. What do you want if you want to be on TV and do it well? Well, you can't do it well if they ask you to do TV every 3 months. But if they ask you to do it a few times, like 3 or 4 times in a row, You get better at it. You get better. They got reps. Me and you got reps. People get reps at their job. Now, who makes the jump with these reps and the improvement? We got to see these guys a lot. And we know one thing, that coaching staff and Jordi Fernandez is the leader. I really have an unbelievable belief. One of my favorite things to do, because I get to the arena early, is watch guys work with guys. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just wish, I wish I could go back 25 years when I was coaching and to say, hey, teach me how to do that. Show me how you did this. These people are special. And I know there are all over the league, right? But the one thing I like about the Nets staff, they all are sticking around. They never go anywhere. Like everybody looks for another job all the time in the NBA. Not with the Nets. So I really, really like that the consistency. And I can't wait to watch how much better guys are, because that will be the real sign to me. They got their feet wet. You got to feel for it. Now let's see if you can make a jump. Now, if they don't, and you want to see something, well, then I think there's concern anyways. But I think you would really have concern if you didn't see any improvement in these guys once they took the court next year. A couple of them.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I agree with everything you said there on all fronts. And I think when you mention guys like VJ Edgecombe, Con Knipple, Cooper Flagg, guys of that nature who are still on the younger side, they're not deep into their 20s. They're around the same range as the Yegors, the Nolans, the Drake Powells of the world. Those are guys who went into pretty good situations. Edgecombe with the 76ers, Knipple with the Hornets, and Flagg
that's a really good point. Right? They kind of went out there as kind of a piece to a pretty good team that they could fit into. That's a pretty solid point right there. That's a different good way to look at it, right? Or a way to look at it. I don't know if it's, I don't know if it tells the whole story, but it could be part of the story. That was very good observation by you. Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, it doesn't tell the full story. I mean, Con Knipple shot the lights out. That isn't because of who he was playing alongside. I mean, Cooper Flagg is Cooper Flagg. VJ Edgecombe is the best two-way player in the draft. It plays a role in it compared to looking at the five guys who were playing on the Brooklyn Nets next to MPJ and nobody else alongside him, really. So it kind of puts it in perspective. But like you said, it doesn't tell the full story.
Nah, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know. And but the other thing is, you don't want to hope guys good too. You don't want to wish them good. They got to show that they're good. They're good and they're consistently good. I think I'm just really curious. I think there's potential there, but that's a dangerous word too, right? Potential. It's got to be fulfilled, and the guys got to get better, and they got to be not just capable. They got to be consistent. So that is the big word you want to say.
Most definitely. And you mentioned the coaching staff. I kind of want to talk about that next. A few weeks ago, report came out the Nets have fully extended their coaching staff, Jordi and all 9 of his assistants. And from an outsider cap who may have not watched the Nets the past 2 years, you look and say 118 combined losses and the whole coaching staff gets an extension. What the hell are the Nets thinking? But obviously context is key.
Nah.
The Nets haven't won many games the past 2 seasons, but I think, you and I and a large portion of the Nets fan base and those covering the team believe that this organization has their coach of the future with Jordi Fernandez. And if you're going to extend him, you might as well bring back the 9 assistants who we brought here as well, one of which is Steve Hetzel, who has coached the Summer League team now 2 years in a row and is getting legitimate head coaching consideration by the New Orleans Pelicans. Your thoughts on the Nets' decision to re-up Fernandez and those 9 assistants, and also what they need to show this season, because the 2 years of tanking is in the books. And for me, I'm looking for this organization to do what the Charlotte Hornets just did this past season, compete right away with these young pieces, maybe not be, a team like the Knicks, the Cavs, the Pistons, but, fight, get a spot in the play-in tournament, win, 40, 45 games. I think that's a non-negotiable for Fernandez and this coaching staff.
Well, I'm not surprised everybody was extended. I've watched what they do. I've listened. I have friends on other staffs, coaching staffs, who whisper to me and say, "You don't know how good a job they're doing right now. This is one of the most impressive coaching jobs they've seen. You know, like people are blown away when and they're not. These are guys they knew 40 years ago, so they're telling me the truth. You know, they're not like making up stuff. So I do believe. And then you watched it. You know, you watched in year one of Jordy. You know, like the team was playing so well they had to discard players, right? They were.
Schroeder, everyone, get him out.
Get out of here. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, and then it's challenging. You know, because when I think Jordy Fernandez signed to be the coach, it was before the Mikal Bridges trade, and you know what I mean. He probably might have been thinking he was coming into a different thing. I love his attitude daily about everything. Just talking about getting 1% better. Let's improve. He's got a nice poise about him. Does Jordy Fernandez, for a guy that's had to go through this, you know, but look at OKC, right? They had to go through it 4 or 5 years ago, right? I mean, they went through it, and they look pretty comfortable right now. It's, you know, I wasn't surprised. I've been nothing but really impressed by not only the job, you know, watching them work. I think everybody knows that this team, and you're saying, well, they got to get to the play-in tournament. Yeah, if they do, if some moves, if there's gonna, I don't think the same roster is gonna get them there, though.
No, definitely not.
They'll get better, but let's see what the roster is when you line them up in November, you know, in October, and you line up the team and you see what you got. I think there'll be some shrewd moves. I think there'll be. You know, additional players. I think there'll be development of the players you have. And that mix, I can tell you, I don't know what the number is going to be, but this team is going to be well coached. It just is. So we know that part of it. And we, you know, so looking forward to that.
Definitely, and completely agree with what you said on the roster. It's more than coaching. It's adding to this roster, not only at number 6 in the draft, and, you know, if you want to go after a star guard and a Darius Acuff Jr., a Keaton Wagler, a Kingston Flemings, whoever that may be, but also making moves on the free agency market. You know, Peyton Watson is a name that's been floated around recently, was with the Denver Nuggets these past few years, has that cohesion with Michael Porter Jr. That's a guy that I think would make a lot of sense for this team. There's been the Isaiah Hartenstein buzz as of late. This roster needs upgrade. There's no doubt about it. Jalen Wilson shouldn't be playing 25 minutes a night, 30 minutes a night on a team that's going to, you know, make the playoffs. Get those guys out of the rotation. The end of the roster guys who are playing this season, and again, some of that can be contributed to the tank and you know, throwing those guys out there. But, you know, Trey Scott's not an NBA player. He shouldn't be out on the floor. Malachi Moore should not be playing minutes on an NBA team to open the season. Same with Jalen Wilson, all of those guys. I think it's about just overall strengthening this roster, because we've seen them overperform, especially to start Jordy's first season. I thought that was a great call out by you, getting off that strong start where you were just about 500, a little above 10 to 12 games into the season, and you were pushing the Celtics and the Cavaliers of the world to the final buzzer. Like, that was a team that wasn't uber talented, but Jordy Fernandez was, you know, having those guys play above expectations. I think you need to strengthen the roster, and with that, I think the outlook's promising, again, given what Fernandez and this coaching staff has shown.
Absolutely. I think that's a fair assessment. I do not know what that translates to. I don't know what you want, but you want to be, as a Nets fan, you want to say, hey, that's progress. I like what I'm seeing. I can get behind this team. And I think that's the type of that's the type of feeling you're going for next year, and that's what I expect. I think reasonable fans know the reason, they want to see real progress and feel real good about the future of this organization.
Definitely. I want to talk about some of those, the end of the roster guys, the two ways. Anyone in that category catch your eye, per se? The Tyson Etiennes of the world, the Chaney Johnsons, Malachi Smith. Trey Scott's a bit of an older guy. He's about to turn 30 years old. But any, those two ways, the guys that we saw get called up from Long Island down the stretch, anyone show you something, Cap, where you were like, I think that guy deserves a second look next season?
I think the NBA has become really athletic, strong. I don't know the skill-wise of Chaney Johnson, and I don't really even know his actual position, but I do know that the NBA thrives on guys. And I like his motor, too. I think he has a motor.
Exactly.
I like all these guys, to tell you the truth. I'm not in position. I thought they were I don't know where it's going forward, but I think he's a great example of where the NBA is going. I think he could be a very strong wing defender. I think he's got a toughness. I think he's still a little raw offensively. I think he's a little bit, he's a Division II player at one point, right? Only a few years ago. So could he be a guy that makes an incredible jump because he has size, he has the motor, and the strength, and those I think he intrigues me, and I also think when you're looking at roster building, you're talking about the Nets have a lot of second round picks.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way the NBA is made right now, I think you've got to find the guys that, certainly if you believe in your development ability, find incredible athletes. Find some incredible athletes that you think you can mold into players. I see the speed, the length in these playoffs, and you know that you've got to be able to have it on both sides of the floor, because you got to be. These guys are just too good right now to not have. When you have a hole in your team, on your roster, on the floor defensively, you get exploited too easy if you want to ascend in the NBA to the upper echelon of teams. So I think those type of guys that can defend every position and have offensive, I think two-way players are critical right now.
Definitely. Chaney Johnson is someone I'm certainly rooting for. I did a story, a feature story on him over at Nets Daily. I sat down with him, some of his former coaches, his agents, and it's a great story. Like you said, he was playing Division II basketball at University of Alabama, Huntsville just a couple of years ago, and then put an integral role in Auburn's Final Four run, and there he was with the Nets down the stretch. I agree. He flashed the athleticism, the length, and as you know, he's kind of a positionless player in a way. Like, he was technically listed as the Nets center at times, but he's 6'9". Like, that's not sustainable. He doesn't have the height to be a center in the league. He fits that bill of like a power forward to me.
I don't even know if he's that tall. I don't know. Yeah. I don't even know what he's. I know he's got his length, his wingspan is really long. I don't know his actual height. I'm not sure how tall he is, and I'm not sure where he plays. But I do think I really enjoyed his motor, his energy when he was on the floor. I appreciated him. I appreciate all these guys, but I thought he was intriguing to see what he might become with a little bit more refinement to his offensive game.
Cap, it wasn't an exciting season, I'm sure, for covering a winning basketball team. This was one of the worst teams in the league, bottom four record-wise. But any memory for you? It could have been on the floor with the Nets or off the floor that you'll remember from this season. Did anything in particular stick out for you?
Well, for me personally, the fact that that 2,000 games in a row was really nice how they treated me. I thought it was one of the really nice things in my life. So that really jumped out to me, on a personal level, and then doing a decent amount of TV was really enjoyable to me. And really the best thing that's happened this year is that Chris Carino is going into the Basketball Hall of Fame. That's pretty unbelievable, isn't it? Freaking Hall of Famer. How about that?
My, yeah. Like, your partner for forever. I'm sure it's very rewarding for you to see it as well. I mean, you hit that incredible milestone, and this year was so rewarding for you and your partner as well.
Yeah, no, it was. That part was really nice for me personally. But I'm just saying that for Chris Carino going into the Basketball Hall of Fame and them recognizing that he is so talented, so skilled, and such an inspiration in a lot of ways was really the highlight. It was, the timing of it was a little bit, there was still a little bit of season left. So that was late in the season when he got that call, but it was really, really, really special. So I do believe that was probably the highlight for. I know it was for Chris to feel that good, but honestly, I've worked with him for 23 years.
Yeah.
Just, he goes in the Hall of Fame. There's a little bit of me going there too. I can tell you that. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. So that was clearly the highlight of the. And the other thing is, Chris was also he was also New York State's broadcaster of the year. He got some amount of work. Because think about it. This isn't Rhode Island we're talking about. This is New York State.
It's the media capital of the world, that is. Yep.
Exactly. What do you got? How many pro teams you got in New York? 9? I don't even know. 9. And this is all every sport. So he had already gotten that award. And then, so those kind of things, when you work with somebody and they get an award, it feels like your award, because it's a team. You got to be a team.
Exactly.
And those were clearly the most special things I'll take from this season.
Love it. Cap, thank you so much for joining us right here on the show. It was a blast going back and forth with you, talking about your career, your thoughts on the current landscape of the NBA, and then obviously the Brooklyn Nets. You got any final thoughts, basketball related, non-basketball related, before we wrap things up?
The playoffs are great. Playoffs are great. Enjoy them. You sound great, man. You are a pro.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolute pro. So just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll work together someday doing something. All right? Keep doing
I love it. Thank you so much. It means a lot coming from you, and blast going back and forth, and hopefully do it again soon. And hey, you never know. It's the next generation of broadcasters that's starting to break through. I'm sure it's crazy for you. Maybe not working alongside Ian Eagle for the longest time, but working with him in a way and covering Nets games to see Noah Eagle in the booth. So the next generation of broadcasters is coming, Tim. I'll tell you that.
That's right. I can't wait.
Of course.
Hopefully, I'm hanging around. I gotta hang around.
Oh, you'll be there. Don't worry. It was a blast going back and forth with you, like I said. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. That'll do it for us. For Tim Capstraw, Nets broadcast legend, I'm Connor Long, right here on the Brooklyn Boys Show, saying have a great rest of your evening, everyone. And as always, go Nets, baby. Peace out.